The sun burned bright over the endless desert, turning the sand into a golden sea that stretched as far as the eye could see. Waves of heat shimmered above the dunes, and the air was dry and heavy. A small group of researchers worked near a rocky outcrop, their tents set up in a tight circle for shade and safety. Among them was Myra, a young archaeologist with sharp eyes and a curious mind. She had spent years studying old maps and strange symbols found in scattered ruins across this desert. Myra believed there was something hidden here, something the world had forgotten. While many dismissed the desert as empty and lifeless, she was certain it held secrets buried beneath its surface. Her father had once told her ancient stories about powerful people who lived long ago, people who seemed to vanish without a trace. Most thought they were just tales, but Myra felt there was truth in them. On this day, Myra and her team were carefully brushing sand away from a tall stone pillar half buried in the earth. The pillar was unlike anything they had ever seen. Strange lines and shapes covered its surface, twisting in patterns that seemed almost alive. The stone felt unusually smooth, like it had been shaped by hands far more skilled than those of early humans. "Careful," Myra said softly as she brushed away the last of the sand near its base. Her teammate Rami, a quiet man with a love for old languages, crouched beside her. "This writing," Rami said, running his fingers gently across the carved marks, "it does not match any known language. It looks older than anything we have studied." Myra nodded. "I think this is just the beginning. This pillar could be a marker, maybe even a warning." They continued to dig as the sun sank lower in the sky. The more they uncovered, the stranger things became. The pillar was not just a single piece of stone. At its base, they found a circular platform made of black rock, smooth and cool despite the desert heat. In the center was a small hole that seemed to go deep into the ground. As night approached, the team gathered around the discovery. The desert grew quiet, and the wind carried a low, haunting sound that seemed to come from beneath their feet. The group exchanged uneasy glances. "Do you hear that?" asked Sammy, one of the younger team members. His voice trembled slightly. "Yes," Myra replied, her eyes fixed on the hole in the platform. "It sounds like air moving below the ground. This could mean there are chambers down there, maybe even tunnels." Excitement filled her voice, but there was also a trace of fear. She had dreamed of finding something like this for years, but now that it was real, she felt the weight of what they were about to uncover. That night, under the stars, Myra sat by the fire, studying her notes and the patterns on the pillar. The desert was silent except for the crackle of flames and the distant call of a desert fox. Rami sat beside her, sipping water from a metal cup. "Do you really think this is part of an ancient city?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," Myra admitted, "but the markings suggest it was built with purpose. Look here." She pointed to a series of spirals on her sketch. "These symbols appear in different ruins across the region, but never in one place. It's as if they all lead here." Rami frowned. "If that is true, then this site could change everything we know about history." Myra smiled faintly. "Exactly. That is why we must keep going, no matter what." The next morning, the team rose before sunrise. They worked tirelessly, clearing more sand from around the platform. As the first rays of light touched the desert, something unexpected happened. The carvings on the pillar seemed to glow faintly, just for a moment, before fading again. Everyone froze. "Did you see that?" Sammy whispered, his eyes wide. "Yes," Myra said breathlessly. "The sunlight must have hit it at the right angle." Or perhaps, she stopped herself, unwilling to say more. The team exchanged nervous looks, but Myra's determination grew stronger. They dug faster, uncovering a wide set of steps leading downward beneath the platform. Each step was carved with more symbols, the same ones they had seen on the pillar. As they cleared the last of the sand, a strange cool breeze drifted upward from below. It carried with it a smell of earth and something metallic. Myra's heart raced. This was no ordinary ruin. "We need to prepare before going down," she said firmly. "Check our lights and ropes. No one enters alone." The team nodded, but there was a sense of unease among them. The desert around them felt different now, as if the ground itself was watching. When evening came again, Myra stood at the edge of the stairs, staring into the darkness below. She thought of her father's old stories and how people had once spoken of gods who walked among humans. What if those stories were true? She tightened her grip on her lantern and whispered to herself, "Tomorrow, we find out what lies beneath." The night passed slowly, filled with restless dreams. When the sun rose again, Myra and her team gathered their courage and their tools. Together, they began their descent into the hidden world below the desert, unaware of the dangers and wonders that awaited them in the forbidden catacombs. The morning sun painted the desert gold as Myra and her team stood around the stone platform. The stairs leading below were now clear of sand, each step carved with symbols that seemed to tell a story no one understood. The opening yawned wide like the mouth of some ancient creature waiting in silence. Myra checked the ropes, lanterns, and small cameras they had brought for the descent. Her heart beat fast, but she forced her hands to stay steady. This was the moment she had dreamed about since she first studied old maps as a student. Now she was about to walk into history itself. "Everyone ready?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Rami adjusted his backpack and nodded. "Ready. But we need to be careful. We don't know how stable this place is after so many centuries." Sammy swallowed hard and tightened his grip on the lantern he carried. He was the youngest on the team and tried to hide his nervousness, but Myra noticed it in the way his shoulders tensed. One by one, they descended into the darkness. The air grew cooler with each step. The walls were smooth and lined with strange carvings that reflected the lantern light in odd ways. Some carvings looked like stars. Others showed shapes that resembled tall figures standing beside humans. As they went deeper, the wind-like sound they had heard before grew stronger. It did not come from outside but from somewhere far below. "This is incredible," Rami whispered, brushing his hand over a set of spirals on the wall. "Look at this detail. The stone feels almost polished, as if it was shaped with tools far beyond anything used in ancient times." Myra examined the carvings too. She could feel a story hidden in these walls, a story waiting to be understood. The stairs ended at a massive stone door. It rose high above them, covered in the same strange symbols as the pillar above. Unlike the rough stones of most ancient ruins, this door was made of a dark, metallic material that seemed untouched by time. Sammy stepped closer, running his fingers along the edges. "It feels warm," he said softly. Rami frowned. "That's not possible. We are deep underground. There should be no heat here." Myra leaned forward and saw faint lines of light tracing across the surface of the door, like veins glowing beneath stone skin. The lines pulsed once, then faded again. "It reacts to touch," she said slowly. "Maybe it needs something to open." They searched the walls and the floor for clues. Near the base of the door, they found a circular panel with more symbols carved into it. Myra crouched beside it, studying the shapes carefully. "These markings," she said, pointing to the outer ring, "match the patterns on the pillar above." Maybe this is a kind of lock. Rami knelt beside her, pulling out his notebook where he had drawn copies of the symbols. Together, they compared the carvings. After a while, Myra pressed her hand on 3 symbols in the order they appeared on the pillar. For a moment nothing happened. Then the door gave a deep rumble that vibrated through the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling as the glowing lines flared bright. The entire team stepped back as the door slowly began to slide open. A gust of cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of earth and something faintly metallic. Their lanterns flickered in the sudden wind. Beyond the door lay a wide hallway carved from black stone. Tall pillars lined the sides, each holding statues of figures with human-like faces but taller, broader, and wearing strange helmets. Their stone eyes seemed to follow the intruders silently. Sammy stared in awe. "This is not just a tomb," he said softly. "It looks like a city built under the desert." The hallway stretched far ahead, disappearing into shadows. The walls shimmered slightly as if coated with a thin layer of crystal. Some areas reflected the light in rainbow colors. They stepped inside slowly, their footsteps echoing. The air was heavy but not stale. It felt as though the place had been waiting for someone to return. Rami examined one of the statues closely. "Look at this," he said. "The armor is detailed, but these are not weapons I recognize. They don't even look like swords or spears. More like tools of some kind." Myra walked further into the hallway, her lantern lighting murals carved into the walls. One showed humans standing beneath a sky filled with strange flying shapes. Another showed tall beings handing something glowing to smaller human figures. "These carvings tell a story," Myra said. "Whoever built this wanted it remembered." The team followed her deeper into the structure. The hallway ended in a grand chamber with a high ceiling shaped like a dome. In the center stood a circular platform surrounded by broken pieces of what looked like ancient machines. Some were covered in dust, but others looked almost new, as if time had barely touched them. Sammy knelt beside one of the machines. "It has no wheels, no gears, nothing I recognize. How did they make this?" Before anyone could answer, a soft humming sound filled the chamber. The broken machine nearest to Sammy flickered with faint blue light. The team froze. Slowly, the light grew brighter, forming a glowing shape above the machine. It twisted and shifted until it became a figure made of pure light, standing tall in the air. The figure raised its hand as though greeting them. Myra felt her heart pounding. They had just entered the catacombs, and already something impossible had awakened. She looked at the glowing figure and whispered, "What are you?" The figure said nothing, but the walls around them began to glow with lines of light, as though the entire place had come alive after sleeping for countless ages. The team realized they had uncovered something far greater than they had imagined. Something that might change the story of humanity itself. The glowing figure hovered above the ancient machine, its light casting long shadows across the black stone walls. Myra and her team stood frozen, unsure whether to run or stay. The humming sound grew louder, echoing through the chamber like a deep heartbeat. Sammy gripped his lantern tightly. "It's alive," he whispered, his voice trembling. Rami slowly raised a hand, as if calming a frightened animal. "No sudden moves? We don't know if it's dangerous." The figure did not attack or come closer. It only stood there, its body made of shifting light. Myra took a deep breath and stepped forward. Fear pressed at the edges of her mind, but her curiosity was stronger. "Hello," she said clearly. "We are explorers. We mean no harm." The figure tilted its head as though it understood, but it made no sound. Then, Without warning, a circle of symbols appeared on the floor around the machine. These symbols glowed brightly, forming a pattern Myra had never seen before. The walls lit up with moving images. Myra and her team gasped as the carvings seemed to come alive. They watched scenes of a long-forgotten past. The first image showed a vast desert, much like the one above them, but filled with water and green land. Strange flying ships moved through the sky, far more advanced than anything humans had ever built. The next image showed tall beings with human-like faces but longer limbs and bright markings on their skin. They stood beside humans, teaching them, sharing knowledge. Rami stared in awe. These are not myths. These are records of real events. These beings, they came here long ago. Myra's heart raced. If this is true, then our ancestors were guided by them. Maybe they helped build this place. As they watched, the images shifted again. The skies filled with fire as something massive descended from the stars. The tall beings fought to protect the humans. Huge machines like the ones in the chamber marched into battle. The ground shook as if the entire world was at war. The final image showed the tall being sealing a glowing object inside a vault deep within the catacombs. After that, the flying ships left the earth, disappearing into the stars. Then the glowing figure in the chamber raised its hand. The images vanished, and only silence remained. Sammy's breathing was heavy. This is impossible. Are we saying aliens built this place and helped our ancestors? Rami shook his head slowly. Not just helped. It looks like they lived here for a time. Maybe they protected humans from something far worse. Myra stayed quiet, her mind racing. She had spent her life searching for evidence of a forgotten past, but this was beyond her wildest dreams. The figure of light lowered its hand, and the circle of symbols on the floor began to spin slowly. A deep rumble came from below as if something massive was awakening further beneath them. Myra turned to her team. We need to document everything. Cameras, scanners, take as many notes as you can. This is proof of a history no one believed. As they worked quickly, Myra noticed something strange about the statues surrounding the chamber. Earlier, they had been still and lifeless, but now their eyes glowed faintly. The glow was dim, like embers, but it was there. Rami, Myra said softly, pointing to the nearest statue. Look. He followed her gaze and froze. That wasn't glowing before. Before they could react, one of the statues shifted slightly. Stone cracked as hidden joints moved beneath the surface. Slowly, the figure stepped down from its pedestal, landing with a heavy thud that echoed through the chamber. Sammy stumbled backward. It's moving. They're alive. The glowing figure hovered beside the awakened statue as though guiding it. The statue's face turned toward Myra. Though it had no expression, Myra felt a strange sense of awareness, as if it was studying her. More statues began to move, their stone shells breaking apart to reveal metal beneath. These were not statues at all. They were machines, guardians built to protect the catacombs. The team backed away carefully, their hearts pounding. Myra held up her hands. We are not your enemies. We are only here to learn. The guardians did not attack. Instead, they formed a line along the walls, standing silently like soldiers waiting for orders. The glowing figure moved to the center of the chamber and projected another image, this one smaller and easier to understand. It showed the same glowing vault they had seen earlier, deep below the ground. A new set of symbols appeared beside it. Rami studied them closely. This is a message, he said. It's trying to tell us something. Myra leaned closer. Can you translate it? Not fully, Rami admitted, but I think it says danger. It warns us not to open the vault unless we are prepared. It may contain something powerful. Myra's gaze shifted to the floor. So these guardians were left here to keep it safe. The glowing figure flickered, its light dimming slightly. Then it turned and floated toward another passageway leading deeper into the catacombs. Myra felt a pull in her chest, a mix of fear and determination. It wants us to follow, she said. Sammy hesitated. Are you sure that's wise? What if it's leading us into a trap? Myra shook her head. If these beings wanted to harm us, they would have done it already. I think they need our help, or perhaps they want us to see something important. The team gathered their supplies and followed the glowing figure. The guardians stayed behind, watching silently. As they moved deeper, the air grew colder, and the tunnels grew narrower. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly like stars in the dark. Rami whispered, "It feels like we're walking into the heart of the earth." Myra said nothing. Her mind was fixed on the images she had seen and the story they told. These catacombs were more than ruins. They were a message left for humanity, a bridge between the past and the future. When they reached a new chamber, the glowing figure stopped. Ahead of them stood another massive door, even larger than the first. It shimmered with a strange energy that made the air hum. Myra stepped forward, her eyes wide. This must be the vault. The glowing figure hovered silently, waiting. Myra understood that whatever lay beyond this door would decide the fate of not only her team but possibly the entire world. The air in the deep chamber was cold and heavy, pressing against Myra and her team as they stood before the massive shimmering door. A faint humming came from its surface, almost like the sound of distant voices whispering through stone. None of them spoke for a moment. The glow from their lanterns flickered against the walls, mixing with the strange light coming from the door itself. Sammy stepped back, clutching his lantern tightly. His voice trembled as he spoke. This doesn't feel right. We should not be here." Rami studied the door with wide, fascinated eyes. "Look at these markings," he said, pointing at a line of glowing symbols etched across the surface. "They are similar to the ones we saw before, but there are more here. It's almost like a warning or a seal." Myra nodded slowly. "A seal to keep something locked away. Whatever is behind this door, the builders didn't want it to be opened easily." The glowing figure that had been guiding them floated closer to the door. It raised its hand, and the symbols on the surface grew brighter. The humming deepened, echoing through the entire tunnel network. The ground beneath their feet vibrated softly. Suddenly, a loud grinding noise echoed from behind them. The team spun around to see the guardians from the earlier chamber arriving. The tall metal figures moved with slow, heavy steps, their glowing eyes fixed on the humans. Their presence was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Sammy stumbled backward in panic. "They followed us," he cried. "Why are they here?" Myra held up a hand, trying to stay calm. "They are protectors," she said firmly. "I don't think they mean to harm us, but they are making sure we do not do anything reckless." The guardians stopped in a perfect line just inside the chamber, standing like soldiers awaiting orders. Their heads tilted slightly toward the glowing figure, as if recognizing it as their leader. Rami's voice was filled with wonder. "These machines must be thousands of years old, yet they move as if they were built yesterday. This is beyond anything our technology can do." As the group watched, one guardian stepped forward. It lowered its head toward Myra and released a low, vibrating sound, like a deep tone carried through metal. Though they could not understand the sound, Myra sensed it was a kind of speech. Rami whispered, "It's trying to communicate." The glowing figure responded with a soft pulse of light. Immediately, the guardian turned and pointed toward the massive door. Myra understood the message. "They are warning us," she said. "They don't want us to open it without understanding the risk." Sammy's fear only grew. "Then we should listen to them. If even these guardians are afraid of what's inside, maybe we should leave." But Myra's determination did not waver. She had seen the carvings of ancient battles, of humans standing beside the tall beings from the stars. She felt certain that what lay beyond this door was connected to humanity's past and possibly its future. "No," she said firmly. "We've come too far to turn back now. We need to know the truth." Rami looked conflicted but finally nodded. "If we are careful, maybe we can find a way to open it safely." The glowing figure floated closer to the circular control panel near the base of the door. It gestured with its hand, and new symbols appeared in the air like floating letters of light. Rami quickly took out his notebook, copying the shapes as fast as he could. "I think these are instructions," he said. "Some kind of process to unlock the door without triggering whatever defense system might be here." As he worked, the guardians began to move again. Two of them took positions on either side of the door. Their glowing eyes brightened, and they placed their hands against the stone as if ready to assist or prevent the opening depending on what the humans chose. The room fell silent except for the hum of ancient machinery and the steady scratch of Rami's pencil. Then, without warning, a deep metallic clang echoed through the chamber. The ground shook violently, knocking everyone off balance. "What was that?" Sammy shouted, scrambling to his feet. One of the tunnels leading back to the upper levels began to collapse. Sand and rock poured down, sealing their path of return. Myra's heart pounded. "We are trapped," she said, her voice tight. "The only way forward now is through that door." The guardians reacted instantly. They formed a defensive circle around the humans, facing outward as if expecting an attack. Their bodies glowed brighter, and a low, rumbling sound filled the air. From somewhere deep in the tunnels came an eerie, mechanical wail. It was unlike anything they had heard before, a sound that seemed to vibrate inside their bones. Sammy trembled. "Something else is down here with us." Myra tightened her grip on her lantern. These catacombs weren't just built to hide something. They were built to keep something out. The glowing figure pulsed with light, and the door's symbols began to shift and rearrange. Rami scrambled to translate as quickly as possible. "It's giving us a choice," he said breathlessly. "Either open the door now and face whatever is inside, or leave it sealed and risk being destroyed by whatever is approaching." The wailing sound grew louder, echoing through the tunnels like a warning bell. Myra made her decision. "Rami, do it. Open the door. We'll take the risk." With shaking hands, Rami pressed the symbols in the correct sequence. The massive door rumbled and began to slide open, revealing a narrow passage beyond. A cold, blue light poured out, illuminating their faces. As the door opened fully, the guardians stepped aside, their glowing eyes fixed on Myra as if judging her choice. Myra swallowed hard, her breath visible in the frigid air. She looked back at her team. "Stay close. Whatever is beyond this point has been waiting for thousands of years." They stepped forward together, following the path into the unknown, while behind them the glowing figure and guardians stood ready, prepared to face the approaching danger. The narrow passage glowed with a soft, blue light as Myra led her team forward. The air was cold, almost icy, and each breath left a pale mist in front of their faces. The walls were smooth and curved, as though they had been shaped by hands or tools far beyond anything humans had ever created. Strange symbols pulsed faintly beneath the surface of the stone, glowing in rhythm like a heartbeat. Behind them, the heavy door began to close, sealing them inside. The sound of it sliding shut was deep and final, echoing through the passage like the closing of a vault. Sammy flinched at the sound and tightened his grip on his lantern. "We're locked in," he said, his voice shaking. Myra glanced back but kept walking. "That means there's only one way forward. Stay close, everyone." The passage opened into a vast circular chamber unlike anything they had seen before. The ceiling was high and domed, glowing with the same blue light. In the center of the room stood a large pedestal covered in intricate carvings. Above it hovered a sphere of light, slowly rotating and casting shifting patterns across the walls. The guardians had not followed them inside. Only the glowing figure drifted behind them, silent and watchful. Rami's eyes widened in amazement. "This is not just a ruin," he whispered. "It's a control room. Look at these designs. They are too precise to be random." Myra stepped toward the pedestal carefully. She felt a strange vibration in the air, as though the room itself was alive. "I think this is where the truth will be revealed," she said. As she approached, the sphere reacted to her presence. Its glow intensified, and symbols appeared in midair, forming a ring around her. The symbols shifted rapidly, then began to arrange themselves into patterns that slowly became recognizable letters. Rami gasped. "It's translating the message for us." The others gathered around, watching as words began to form in their own language. The sphere's message filled the chamber with a calm, clear voice that spoke directly into their minds. "We came to this world long ago," the voice said. "Your ancestors were fragile, living in darkness and fear. We guided them, teaching them to build, to farm, to dream. Together, we created a new dawn." Images appeared around the chamber, just as they had in the earlier hall. They saw humans learning to light fires, build homes, and create tools under the guidance of tall, glowing beings. The voice continued. "But there were others who did not wish to see you rise. From the stars they came, bringing destruction. We fought to protect this world. Many of us fell." The images shifted, showing battles across deserts, mountains, and oceans. Great machines clashed with monstrous shapes that seemed made of darkness and fire. Sammy shivered. "Those things, they don't even look alive." "They are our enemy," the voice said. "We built this place to hide what must never be lost: knowledge and power to defend your kind when the enemy returns." Myra's breath caught in her throat. So they knew the enemy would come back. The voice grew softer, almost sad. "We could not stay. Our time here ended, but we left guardians to protect this place. They are not alive as you are, but they will watch and wait until your people are ready." Rami glanced at Myra. "The machines we saw earlier, they were left behind to guard this knowledge." The images changed again. They saw the glowing vault they had just opened, its walls lined with strange machinery and symbols. Inside the vault rested another sphere, much larger and brighter than the one in this chamber. "This," the voice said, "is the heart of our legacy. It contains the wisdom and tools you will need to face the coming storm. But be warned, using it will draw the attention of the enemy once more. The moment you awaken it, they will know." The team stood in stunned silence. Sammy's voice trembled. "So if we take this knowledge, we risk bringing those creatures back here?" "Yes," the voice replied. But if you do nothing, when they come, you will be defenseless. The sphere's light dimmed slightly, and the final words echoed through their minds. The choice is yours. The future of your people rests in your hands. The images vanished, leaving only the quiet hum of the chamber. For a long moment, no one spoke. The weight of what they had learned pressed down on them like a heavy stone. Finally, Rami broke the silence. This explains everything. The carvings, the machines, the guardians, they were preparing for a future war. But it's not just history. It's a warning. Myra's mind raced. Her entire life, she had searched for the truth about humanity's past. Now she stood at the heart of a mystery greater than anything she had imagined. And with that truth came a terrible responsibility. Sammy shook his head. We should leave it all sealed. If we open that inner vault, we could doom the world. Rami turned to him. And if we leave it sealed, when the enemy returns, we will have nothing to fight back with. The argument began to grow tense, their voices echoing off the chamber walls. Myra raised her hand sharply. Enough. The others fell silent. Myra took a deep breath. We cannot make this decision lightly. We need to think carefully. But one thing is clear: this knowledge was left for a reason. Those beings trusted that someday, humans would be ready to protect themselves. Sammy's eyes were wide with fear. Or they believed we would repeat their mistakes. Before Myra could respond, a deep rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The glowing figure flickered wildly, as if alarmed. Rami grabbed Myra's arm. Something is happening outside the chamber. The rumble grew louder. From the passage behind them came the sound of metal clashing and the distant wailing cry they had heard before. The enemy, Myra whispered. The glowing figure raised its hand, projecting a final symbol in the air. Rami's face went pale as he translated it. It says, hurry. Myra's jaw tightened. There was no more time to debate. She looked at her team, her voice steady and clear. We move forward, she said. We reach the final vault. If we fail, everything ends. The glowing figure turned and floated quickly toward the deeper tunnels. Myra and her team followed, their fear swallowed by determination as the ancient catacombs trembled around them. The tunnels grew narrower as Myra and her team followed the glowing figure deeper into the catacombs. The air was icy and carried a strange metallic scent, unlike anything they had smelled before. The walls pulsed faintly with blue light, as if the entire structure were alive. Their footsteps echoed behind them, mixing with the distant rumble of conflict coming from the chambers above. Sammy clutched his lantern tightly. His hands shook, but he refused to let go. The sound is getting louder, he whispered. Whatever is chasing us, it's close. Myra kept her eyes forward, her jaw tight. Keep moving. If we reach the vault before it reaches us, we may have a chance. Behind her, Rami stumbled but quickly regained his balance. He was breathing hard, both from fear and exhaustion. If those machines guarding the upper levels fall, he said, then whatever is outside will have nothing to stop it from reaching us. They won't fall easily, Myra replied. They've been protecting this place for thousands of years. We have to trust them while we finish our task. The glowing figure sped ahead, leading them through a twisting passageway. Suddenly, the tunnel widened into a vast cavern. The sight took their breath away. Before them stood the final vault. It was enormous, stretching high into the shadows of the cavern ceiling. Its surface was smooth and metallic, covered in glowing patterns that shifted and flowed like liquid light. The vault radiated a soft hum, steady and deep, like the heartbeat of some ancient creature. "This is it," Myra said, her voice filled with awe. "The heart of their legacy." The team stepped closer. Strange machinery surrounded the base of the vault, each piece perfectly arranged as if part of a greater design. Though covered in dust, the machines seemed untouched by time. Rami knelt near one of the consoles, running his fingers over the symbols engraved on its surface. "These are instructions," he said quickly. "I can translate some of it." "This is a system to release the vault's lock." Sammy shook his head violently. "You can't open it. The message warned us. Whatever is inside could bring the enemy here." Rami looked up, his face pale but determined. "The enemy is already here, Sammy. If we leave it sealed, we'll have no way to fight back." As they argued, the ground trembled beneath them. A deep roar echoed through the tunnels, louder than before. A crack appeared in the wall near the entrance, and a rush of cold wind blew into the cavern. Myra turned sharply toward her team. "We don't have time for this. Rami, do what you must. Sammy, help me secure the ropes and lights. If something attacks us, we need to see clearly." Reluctantly, Sammy obeyed, his fear written across his face. Rami focused on the console, tracing symbols carefully. He spoke as he worked. "The vault has 3 layers of locks. If I open them in the wrong order, it could destroy everything inside." "Then be careful," Myra said. The glowing figure hovered near Rami, projecting images that helped guide his movements. It seemed to understand the system better than anyone. Minutes passed like hours as Rami worked. Each time he pressed a symbol, the vault's surface shifted and changed, releasing bursts of light that filled the cavern. Finally, with a sharp hum, the first layer unlocked. A ring of light appeared around the vault, spinning slowly. "That's one," Rami said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Before they could continue, the cavern shook violently. From the tunnel behind them came a chilling sound, a mechanical screech mixed with a low, guttural growl. Sammy froze in terror. "It's here." Out of the darkness emerged a massive shape. It was unlike the guardians they had seen before. This creature was twisted and jagged, made of black metal and strange glowing parts. Its movements were unnatural, like a broken machine forced into life. Its eyes burned red as it stalked toward them. Myra's heart pounded. "Defensive positions," she shouted. Sammy swung his lantern wildly, trying to keep the creature in sight. The glowing figure shot forward, releasing a burst of light that struck the creature's chest. The creature roared but kept moving. "It's too strong," Rami yelled. The walls of the cavern lit up as 2 of the guardians burst in through another tunnel. They attacked the creature, their heavy limbs striking with incredible force. Sparks flew as metal clashed against metal. "Keep working, Rami," Myra shouted over the noise. "We'll hold them off." Rami bent over the console, his fingers flying over the symbols. The second layer of the vault began to unlock, releasing a powerful surge of energy that pushed the air outward like a wave. The creature shrieked and lashed out, smashing one of the guardians into pieces. The other guardian fought on, buying precious seconds for the humans. Sammy threw a heavy rope at the creature's legs, tangling them for a moment. "Myra, now," he yelled. Myra grabbed a broken piece of machinery and struck the creature's glowing joint. It staggered, giving the remaining guardian an opening to strike it hard. Rami shouted, "Final lock engaged." "Hold on." The vault's surface glowed so brightly that it hurt their eyes. With a deep rumble, it opened slowly, revealing a chamber inside filled with swirling light. At the center floated a massive sphere of pure energy, its glow warm and powerful. Myra stared in awe. This is what they left for us. The creature let out a final, terrible scream and charged at the team. But before it could reach them, the sphere inside the vault released a pulse of light. The pulse struck the creature, tearing it apart into fragments that dissolved into nothing. Silence filled the cavern. The remaining guardian stood motionless, its glowing eyes fixed on the open vault. Rami fell to his knees, gasping. We did it, it's open. Sammy stared at the sphere, his fear replaced by wonder. It's beautiful. But, what does it do? The glowing figure floated beside the sphere. For the first time, it projected a clear image of the enemy's return. Great ships descending from the stars, vast armies sweeping across the land. Myra's hands clenched into fists. This is not just a weapon, she said. It's a warning. If we take this power, the enemy will know. They will come. Rami rose to his feet. If we leave it, they will still come. We'll just be unprepared. The cavern trembled again, this time from distant echoes of battle. Above them, more guardians were fighting, but their strength would not last forever. Myra looked at her team, her voice calm but heavy with resolve. This is the choice they spoke of. If we take this knowledge, humanity gains the means to fight. But it also paints a target on our world. She turned to the glowing figure. Can this sphere be moved? The figure pulsed with light, then projected an image of a pathway leading to the surface. Myra nodded firmly. Then we take it? We'll face whatever comes, but we won't face it blind. The team gathered their remaining strength, ready to carry the ancient legacy of a civilization long gone, knowing that their decision would change the fate of humanity forever. The glowing sphere floated gently above the ancient platform, its light casting long shadows across the cavern walls. Myra stood before it, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. The air felt alive, charged with power so great that it hummed through her bones. Around her, the others gathered their strength for the final climb back to the surface. Rami was still catching his breath, his face pale but filled with determination. He stared at the sphere as if it held every answer he had ever searched for. This is more than a weapon, he said softly. It's a piece of their knowledge, their history. If we can understand it, we might learn not only how to fight but how to grow beyond anything we've known. Sammy remained quiet, his wide eyes fixed on the swirling light. His fear had not disappeared, but now it was mixed with awe. It feels like it's watching us, he whispered. Like it knows what we're about to do. The glowing figure hovered near the sphere, its form brighter than ever. It projected a final image onto the cavern wall. Great enemy ships hovered in the sky, blocking out the stars. Below them, human cities burned while people ran in terror. Then the image shifted, showing humans standing strong with weapons of light, the enemy retreating before them. Two paths. Two futures. Myra's breath caught. The message was clear. We take it, she said firmly. We can't hide from what's coming. Humanity must be ready. Sammy hesitated. But if we take it, they'll know. They'll come faster. Myra met his gaze. They'll come no matter what we do. At least this way, we have a chance. Rami nodded. We have to move now. The guardians above are still fighting, but they can't hold out forever. The glowing figure floated toward the tunnel leading upward, guiding them like a silent sentinel. Myra and Rami each took one side of the sphere. It hovered lightly, as if helping them carry it, yet they could feel its immense power pressing against their hands. The journey upward was slow and grueling. The tunnels shook with distant impacts. The sounds of battle grew louder the higher they climbed. Flickering lights marked the path, showing glimpses of cracked walls and fallen debris. At one point, a collapsed section blocked their way. Myra set down the sphere carefully and began clearing stones with her bare hands. Rami and Sammy joined her, working desperately until a narrow passage opened. "Go," Myra urged. "We don't have much time." As they climbed higher, they passed through chambers where guardians lay broken, their once glowing eyes now dark. The sight filled them with a deep sadness. These machines had fought tirelessly to protect a legacy not their own. Sammy whispered, "They gave everything to keep this safe." Myra nodded, her throat tight. "And now it's our turn." Finally, they reached the grand entrance chamber. The massive stone door they had first opened now stood wide, but the desert beyond was not as they had left it. The night sky was lit by fire. Strange enemy machines stalked the sands, their dark shapes glowing red as they clashed with the last of the guardians. The wind carried the sharp smell of burning metal. Rami gasped. "They're already here." The glowing figure rose high into the air, its light shining like a beacon. At once, several enemy machines turned toward it, their movements jerky and fast. They began charging toward the entrance. "Run," Myra commanded. "Head for the ridge. If we can reach the high ground, we might escape." The team sprinted across the sand, the sphere floating beside them. Enemy machines gave chase, their limbs pounding the desert floor with terrifying speed. Suddenly, a guardian burst from beneath the sand in a shower of dust. Its glowing arm slammed into two of the enemy machines, sending them crashing into pieces. The guardian turned its gaze toward Myra and her team, then positioned itself between them and the enemy. "It's protecting us," Sammy shouted. "Don't waste its sacrifice," Myra yelled back. "Keep going." They ran until their lungs burned, scrambling up a rocky ridge as the battle raged behind them. From the top, Myra turned to look back. The glowing figure fought beside the last guardian, its light pulsing like a living flame. Though outnumbered, they held the enemy at bay, buying precious moments. Rami stumbled beside her, clutching his side. We can't carry this much farther," he panted. The sphere pulsed brightly, almost as if it understood. Slowly, it lifted itself higher, floating just above their heads. Then it released a wave of energy that surged through the desert. Enemy machines froze in place, their red lights flickering. Some collapsed entirely, while others turned and fled into the darkness. The sudden silence was overwhelming. Sammy stared in shock. It stopped them. Myra realized what had happened. It's protecting itself, and us. It knows it's not safe here. The glowing figure appeared beside them, dim now but still visible. It projected one final image, a hidden valley far from the desert, a place of safety where the sphere could be studied and prepared for the battles to come. Myra nodded, understanding. "We'll take it there. We'll keep it safe until humanity is ready." As dawn broke over the horizon, the desert slowly quieted. Smoke rose in the distance, but the immediate threat was gone. The team stood together at the ridge's peak, the sphere floating calmly between them. Rami spoke softly, his voice filled with hope. "One day, when the enemy returns, this will be the key to our survival." Sammy looked at Myra. "Do you think people will believe us when we tell them what we found?" Myra's gaze swept over the vast desert, the golden sands stretching endlessly beneath the rising sun. It doesn't matter if they believe us now, she said. What matters is that when the time comes, humanity will be ready. With that, they began their journey toward the hidden valley, carrying the ancient gift of a forgotten civilization. Above them, the first light of a new day spread across the sky, marking not just the end of their quest, but the beginning of a new chapter for all of humanity. Though the enemy would one day return, Myra knew that the desert had given them a fighting chance, and that was enough for now.